I don't really think SEO can stand alone that well. Marketing is not something that should be done in silos for any channel. If you're in SEO, you need to connect up with.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Jolly SEO's TLDR. This week I am very grateful we have not one but two guests, the co-founders of Forank, Leigh Buttrey, you are the senior PPC specialist, and Zoe Ashbridge, you are the senior SEO specialist. Did I get that right?
Yes. Hi, everyone.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having us, Greg.
Oh, I'm excited. Just to set the stage for the audience, I was telling Leigh and Zoe, I'm excited because Zoe, I can speak your language, but Leigh, I'm here to learn as a newbie. And I think it's important for all of us SEOs to know how to work with our PPC counterparts. So hopefully in this episode, we will cover some of my newbie questions, but also go a little deeper for the people who know a lot more than me, which is probably a lot of us.
Sounds great.
So I guess my first question is, you two ladies, you are co-founders, so you know each other in and out, right? You know each other's strengths and weaknesses. Mm-hmm. For the SEO like myself, who doesn't have a PPC on the team, what are some of the pitfalls that often you see an SEO thinking about? Because our game is longer term, and maybe I'm assuming wrongly, but I like to think PPC is a faster turnaround time kind of game.
Yeah, I think from an SEO perspective, the worst thing I would say is SEO is like resting on that. So it's like, oh, SEO is a long time. You know, you're not going to see it over 6 months, and like that might be true in like many cases, to be fair. But you can't say that and then just kind of do nothing. And that sounds extreme, but it's actually really not that extreme, unfortunately, in the industry. I think we've just picked up a client recently who wouldn't even mind me saying that, you know, their last agency, I really think we're doing close to nothing, because they were saying, you know, it takes 6 months, and the client was we kind of patiently waited 6 months, nothing had happened. Now, obviously, that's kind of like a separate issue, like an SEO problem. It's more of like an integrity problem, isn't it? But I think it happens quite a lot. And to me, in most cases, I don't really think SEO can stand alone that well. It needs other marketing around it. It doesn't have to be pay-per-click. I'm not saying everyone needs pay-per-click, but, you know, marketing is not something that should be done in silos for any channel. So yeah, I think if you're in SEO, it can take a while. You need to connect up with other marketing teams. You need to make your work harder for you. So SEO wants a new landing page, for example. Where else are you going to use it? How else are you going to drive traffic to it? Because like, let's not create a landing page and then wait 6 months. That's crazy. Like, we can put it into emails, put it into socials. If you're working with someone like Leigh, you can drive ads to it. Yeah, and I mean, to take that another level, if you want, there's something to be said about working together. I don't know if you want to chime in, Leigh. So with every landing page, I'll brief it for everything SEO needs, and then I send it to Leigh, and I say, has this got what you want on it? Like, can you use this? And I don't know if you want to say, perhaps Leigh, like common things you edit on it, things you want to see on it, like the ingredients for a good PPC page.
Yeah, just to go back to what you said, I think one of the things, one of our strengths, I guess, working together is that our kind of resources aren't diluted. So we work on a very, very similar strategy. So what kind of good is I can wait for Zoe to do something in the background with creating a landing page, and I have that behind us, ready for me to sort of plan the campaign and then sort of execute it. And we work to a sort of 3 to 6 month plan, really. So there's always something going on in the background, and then that allows me to I have that resource. I don't just have to send people to a page that's already existing on the website that maybe not up to kind of scratch. But getting back to sort of what Zoe just mentioned with the landing page, so some of the things that I'd be looking out for on the page would be to make sure that the keywords that I need to target, obviously they do overlap with SEO to some extent, but I'm talking about Google Ads specifically now, but making sure that the keywords that I need to target are on the web page, so that we hit that kind of quality score that we talk about with Google Ads. And this is kind of a little bit more advanced, but obviously the higher the quality score, sort of the lower the cost per click and the better you are at bidding. But amongst that, it's just looking at the conversion journey of that landing page. So potentially contact forms are needed on there, call to actions, and actually just understanding what the purpose of the page is. I like to think that Zoe kind of works a little bit differently to most SEO people that I deal with, other outside of Forank, but Zoe tends to work on very conversion-led SEO, which mirrors kind of PPC. So we are very much aligned on that. But that's kind of the basis and what we find is beneficial, having both parties looking at sort of a similar strategy.
I strongly agree with all that, Leigh. It's well said.
Okay, well, I'm not surprised that you two ladies are in agreement. So I have a question for you. What about when the SEO and the PPC are competing for budget, which happens all the time? I don't want to start a fight. I don't think it can anyway, because you two seem good together. But who should win that one, or what circumstances who should win that?
Yeah. We've actually spoken about this in depth on our other podcast. Sorry, Greg, I'm going to plug ours there. We spoke about this because smaller businesses tend to have lower marketing budgets. And I think basically our outcome was, unless you are 110% sure who your audience is, what you're targeting and what your strategy is, we would actually side on the area of SEO, because SEO does have that long-term value. So if you can make sure your website is up to scratch and it has all the SEO components in it, we would recommend pushing your budget into that versus paying for something that may not be quite right. So a solid foundation is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I think, SEO can like build your site up, can't it? So if you haven't got enough pages, there's nothing good enough ad to point to. There's no point running ads. So you can kind of do a lot of like foundational work through the lens of SEO, and that includes like the pro stuff, the UX, building out a decent site navigation. I suppose when we say SEO, though, we are talking very broadly about what SEO means, because it means like setting up a page, getting a contact form in the right place, because we're kind of like thinking of the page through the lens of SEO, I guess. So we might be quite broad there. But also, like, it does depend, doesn't it? Like, there have been times where I'm saying, like, I'm going to step out of this project for a minute because the budget needs to go to Leigh over on pay-per-click and vice versa. So it's like, it depends on the client. But
yeah, and I think it's ultimately what the client's goal is, really, to be honest. If they're a very new a new business, for instance, this has happened recently where Zoe's stepped away from a project. They need heavily brand awareness. We can only really do that quickly with paid media. And then we'll bring in Zoe sort of afterwards. So it really does depend, to be honest. But I think rule of thumb, I would say, get your website foundationally secure through the eye of SEO.
Hey, hope you're enjoying the show. We're going to get right back to it. Real quick, if you're not sure how you're showing up in AI tools like ChatGPT, Perplexity, and the like, click on that first link in the description. If you fill that out for us, we'll send you your own AI visibility report and see how we can help you boost your results. All right, without further ado, remember that link and enjoy the rest of the show.
Well, it would not be an SEO podcast if we didn't say it depends at least once. So I'm glad you got that out there for us.
absolutely.
You talked about unethical behavior just a couple questions ago. We have this scenario all the time where client comes to us and says, I made a great case study for my last SEO, but the traffic graph it doesn't align at all with my
know.
So I guess maybe two-part question. In each of your domains, I mean, we are an SEO focus here, so I'd love, Zoe, if you give us your take on how to avoid that trap, but then also, Leigh, like, what does that look like in PPC? Is that even possible? And what red flags do you look for if your PPC vendor is just giving you a great cost per click, but it's garbage on conversions?
Yeah. I'll let Zoe go first then, and I'll...
Yeah, so I've had that exact thing a few times. Like, I felt like they were just trying to get like a case study out of my website. So yeah, getting that like big click graph is usually like top of funnel pages. Sometimes it's like completely irrelevant, isn't it? I've actually got a client now who I've been working with for probably about a year now, and they're old. When I did their order, I missed like a bunch of pages. They were so buried. I just didn't find it in the initial crawl and stuff. So I made this plan as, oh my goodness, I've made a whole plan, and I've just discovered like 500 pages or whatever it was. Can't believe I did it. Told the client, I was like, I just need to go back and make sure that I'm not recommending that we build pages that are within this 500. And he's like, oh, don't worry about it. They won't be, because the work you're doing is related to our service offering. I was like, what? So they've just got these like 500 pages of irrelevancy. Like, it's not even relevant to the service. And this was a pretty like known SEO as well. Like, it was someone who you would know if I said their name. I was shocked. But it does create, and I think it's actually, you don't get that anymore. Yeah, you get this illusion of this big click graph that's not really helpful for the business. But I suppose the nice thing about the AI stuff is these are now 0-click searches. So they're getting the impressions, but none of the clicks, because the AI is taking it. So I quite like that about the AI. Like, it's made it harder and like you have to go to like a click worthy keyword in order to earn a click now. So I quite like that. I feel like I forgot the initial question. I've just kind of agreed with you for like 5 minutes. But what do you do about it? I mean, I'll stack them and move on. If you're getting like, if you like it, this is the thing. If you're like a marketing manager or a director and the content that's being created is not content that you would put in a newsletter or post on social media because it doesn't quite fit, then it's not right. That's not what a good SEO looks like. That is just, I don't even know what that is, content for the sake of it. And SEO content should make sense with your business. And I would say to my clients, I would never ask you to compromise on a brand value, like even if it was good for SEO or something, like it just wouldn't be good for SEO. So yeah, basically, you just move on from that, I think.
Yeah, so we actually see this quite a lot, and the biggest thing I see is, I guess people want to create kind of an illusion, and what that people are doing is kind of manipulating data to make the account look better. So what I mean by that for people listening is, if you are, if you're looking at, I'm going to just talk about Google Ads at the moment because I think that's probably the easiest one to talk about. Is you'll see sometimes I've seen people use like branded keywords within heavily conversion focused campaigns. And if you're not savvy with Google Ads and you don't know how like sort of campaigns are set up and where the keywords are, what that can look like is you've got a really low cost per click on your conversion led campaign. However, what it's, if you actually look deeper, is it clicks to your brand. And that gives that kind of false interpretation of how those conversion keywords are going. So what tends to happen is your brand takes over those keywords, the clicks. It takes, it has generally a lower cost per click. So you have a really good quality score. And then what that does is it overinflates metrics. So it'll be like, oh, this campaign has got a really low cost per click and it's working really well. And it's also getting conversions, but it's only getting conversions because they're your brand. And naturally, your brand is always going to be searched. We have to kind of have a brand campaign in ads just to stop competitors, but it gives that false kind of illusion. And then on the other foot, you mentioned is low cost per click, something that people should look for. I think I'm going to say it depends. Low cost per click is a good metric, but I think low cost per click has given us, it's in the industry, it's like everyone wants a lower cost per click, and rightfully so. Lower cost per click means you have more spend, you get more clicks, but what you can tend to find is that you'll get quite lower quality clicks, especially if your keywords are a little bit more broader. So, and what I strive for is I'd rather quality over quantity. So it's, for me, if I have to spend, $2.50 on a keyword, but it converts, I'm okay with that. I'm not striving, and that cost per click doesn't actually matter so much because we are seeing conversions from the end. So I think there's a fine line between understanding your product, what your cost per conversion looks like, and then what you don't mind paying for a cost per click. And if it means that the keyword is a really high costing keyword, but you're getting the conversion, then I don't think the cost per click matters overly.
That's awesome.
What about the misuse of, like, was it key events when people like import their key events? That's a good one, isn't it?
Yeah. So this is another thing we see is conversions in Google Ads. Normally a conversion that I define as a conversion is anything that deems business success. So a conversion would be contact form, phone lead, purchase, whatever that industry looks like. So anything that deems business success should be labeled as conversion. What you can tend to find is people will put page views as a conversion in Google Ads, which then severely overinflates your conversion and your conversion rate. And what that tends to do is it give the issue with doing something like this, or if you spot an agency doing stuff like this, is it gives bad data to Google, because Google will try to optimize for that conversion of page view, which then obviously gives you lower quality traffic. So that is another key area to look at as well. If for anyone sort of new in this, is have a look at the conversions and what kind of being set up.
Yeah, with that, thanks for calling that out, Zoe, and explaining, Leigh, because we, inside our company, had our own version of this a few years ago. We were sitting down together at a table, one of the few times we all came together in person, and someone was trying to explain to me a metric in the outreach tool called Pitchbox, and it's a win. What is a win? And they were telling me, our outreach converts at this rate. And I said, that's interesting. That win number, though, is much higher than the number of what we call a win. So we look up the definition of a win on Pitchbox's website, and it's any reply. So they can go tell you to go F yourself, and that's a win. And I'm like, I think we're talking different languages here. So
yeah, absolutely.
Sometimes there's a re-education campaign needed internally, even to understand if we're all saying the same thing.
Yeah. We spoke with a gentleman recently called Chris Nightingale, who worked for a very large UK company. And what was really interesting is the owner or the CEO asked everyone to get on the same page of what that KPI looks like and what KPI success looks like. So the whole company was striving for the same one goal. There's no sort of like disagreement. And then everyone, as to every marketer then within the business, is all striving for that same thing. So I think sometimes there's a communication piece, but I definitely think one of the things I like to sit down and say, hey, how many leads do you get from phone calls? Is it important to you? If it's not, then let's not focus on it. And that's that conversation piece that you need to have before you do any marketing, really, I think, with everyone.
I think, being mindful of time, I still have one question I want to hold in reserve. Prior to that, can you talk about lead quality, but also really, I'm thinking about lead attribution, and how do you decide, who was responsible for which quality of lead? It's the age-old marketer challenge, but I just feel like you two must have more insight than I do.
Oh, this is a topic, Greg, and I could talk about this for hours. Lead attribution. We have this same old argument with companies who tend to use different platforms. So we're talking Meta, maybe LinkedIn, maybe Google Ads, and SEO in there as well, is who won the lead. Now, I like to say, well, I think they all helped that lead. And I think we get very blindsided on the last click attribution. So, sometimes Google Ads takes it, sometimes retargeting takes it. Sometimes SEO. So it's very difficult to understand that. What we tend to look at is a bigger picture of when did a campaign go live? When did the SEO go live? How much clicks is each one sort of providing to the site? And then we sort of talk about, well, they've both benefited it. It's not a one case that one has taken over and is just leading the thing. But I think people can get too hung up on attribution and honestly, I think if you were to say, a real test of attribution would be if myself and Zoe were aligned on something and I just cut the Google Ads to it. How would that then look in terms of leads? So attribution is always going to be a very difficult thing to sort of pinpoint down. There are tools out there that are really great. Some of them are quite expensive though, but I think if you get too hung up on attribution, it's going to do you more harm. It's going to leave you wanting more sort of answers than it is, you actually just getting a good campaign running, to be honest.
You kind of get a bit obsessed with it, can't you? And like, then, I don't know, it doesn't really matter to some degree. It does a little bit, obviously, to make sure you're investing in the right things, but if it's working holistically, it's all kind of like touching the lead at some point. In terms of quality, I think there's something to be said for, Leigh, correct me if I'm wrong here, but I would say like pay-per-click is a lot more targetable, so you can find specific audiences with specific needs and problems. So the lead quality, I would say, overall should be like higher by percentage. Like with SEO, we've got a client in like the catering industry. So as a result of ranking for all these lovely keywords like office catering or premium catering, they also rank for the word catering. There's nothing they can do about that because we've worked so hard to build their authority in catering to get these very specific keywords ranking that the head keyword ranks, which is a really great thing to have in some ways, but it does mean there are going to be irrelevant leads because someone catering for their 1-year-old's birthday party is going to click through to the website and ask for, 20 head count of sandwiches and crisps or something like that, and the client just doesn't do that. So I guess the only way to like help with that is, why you would put an inquiry through on that website for that service, I don't really know because the website's not geared up for it. But SEO can't control, like you can't just target the keyword. Whereas Leigh could put a negative keyword and be like, no, we don't want people clicking just catering and inquiring. Whereas SEO doesn't have that control, so there's probably a higher percentage of their lead quality in SEO. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't look at what does matter, and then you need to talk to the team about that, because if you don't have that feedback loop, you don't know if your marketing's working. Like, it's all right getting leads, but if sales are having a problem closing them or they're wasting time with the relevancy, then something needs to change on the marketing side.
Yeah, and just to touch back on the lead quality, I think I work heavily with just tracking and making sure everything is going into the CRM as it's supposed to be. And we do kind of analysis of leads we've started doing this more and more, as long, speaking to the sales team, how are the leads looking? And you can quickly identify if you have started a campaign on Meta, for instance, and then you've had an influx of really low quality leads, even if last click doesn't necessarily suggest that it's come from Meta, you can probably safely assume that it is Meta. So it's just keeping an eye on those quality of leads that are coming in. And the good thing about the PPC is it's kind of instantaneous sometimes. So you are able to sort of kill it off if it's not aligning with what you want as a lead.
It's awesome. My favorite thing about this podcast is that I get to ask this last question. We're wrapping up. Maybe in your head, you're thinking, I don't understand why he didn't ask us about this. Why didn't we get to this? So if there's something I didn't ask about, knowing I'm a total novice when it comes to PPC, and I'm just an SEO that tries to do my best by my PPC counterparts, what would you two ladies want to share with us?
That's a big question, isn't it? I've got a couple of ideas, like maybe something quite actionable. So like very easy ways that you can get your teams aligning like today. So I would say SEO and pay-per-click should have some kind of shared pages, because I think they work in silos all the time. And I'm not, that doesn't mean, by the way, that there's no place for like a specialized pay-per-click landing page that's really conversion driven and very specific. Obviously pay-per-click still need that, but that's just not what we're talking about here. So find ways to make all the content that SEOs do work harder. And you can broaden that as well. Like we're talking about SEO and pay-per-click here, but that could be email or socials or whatever. So get them in a room, get them at a table, and get them talking about some kind of alignment. So something that they can do together to bring in lead. And that's going to be like I said, like a shared landing page, getting pay-per-click's eyes on it. Maybe it's a service page, optimizing it, get the contact form high up, get the right keywords in place. So SEO is pleased while quality score is improved as well. What else could we add? Probably like looking at keywords. So like a good bit of research we did recently, which is really actionable now, is we had a client saying they wanted to switch one of their focus keywords, their primary keywords. And that was going to mean like de-optimizing the site for one. And I was like, oh, do we really want to do this? But what can pay-per-click do? It can test it immediately. So Leigh ran tests. So she switched the keyword, and that was found that the new keyword was the better performing one in terms of like conversion. So we switched the SEO and went with that. And if else, like something actionable that you could do like tomorrow or today even.
I think I'd actually go right back to basics. I would sit down with the entire team who's doing marketing, understanding what that goal is and align both strategies. It will make your life easier. You're not combating each other. You can share resources. I think another thing is understanding your conversions and making sure you've got good quality data in the account. I think bad data will just set you up for years of failure if you have bad data off the offset. So understanding that you've got your tracking set up, that your conversions are exactly what you want, and it'll make your life 10 times easier for sure.
Wow, that was fantastic. I know we could keep going. We try to keep them short and sweet. So Leigh and Zoe, thank you so much. Before we go though, can you tell folks who want to follow up with you to find out more about this topic where they could look for you?
Go on, Leigh.
Yeah, sure. So you can find us both on LinkedIn. We're kind of heavily involved on LinkedIn, but also if you are interested in more topics, you can also find us on our podcast, which is Forank Marketing, and that's on Spotify and all good streaming platforms.
It's an awesome podcast. Definitely recommend it. I really appreciate you two coming on our podcast today, and I learned a lot. So thank you so much, and I hope to see you all again.
Thanks, Greg.
Bye.
Bye.